Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care anyway, guys? It's St Patrick's Day, we're still top of the league, we're still going to go and bag a historic 9th treble, but the Derby game we had at the weekend there, we all know this wasn't really a game about points, this was a game completely about bragging rights, this was a game completely about getting one over on your rivals, and this game has a lot to talk about, there's a lot to break down in this one, from where Celtic maybe came, fell short, maybe didn't take the game, dare I say it, as seriously as maybe they could have, as well as, Barry Ferguson's Rangers coming into this, mainly being a bit of a laughingstock among Celtic fans. I think this was the only channel that is really giving them any sort of credence to have a kind of wildcard element coming into this game, because it's been very clear, looking even from a distance at how they've been doing in the Europa League against Fenerbahce under Barry Ferguson, that they'd clearly taken a hard left turn tactically. He'd clearly got this ragtag bunch of, no-hopers, essentially serial losers, back onto the same page. And when you've got a team that's really working in unison, that has a common goal and really a point to prove, really write them off at your folly, and I think that's really what we've seen today in a big way. I was laughing my head off listening to Brendan Rodgers' pre-game press conference, because it really did feel that he was really rubbing their nose in it, and he was really trying to antagonise them into, letting emotion ride the match rather than tactics and discipline and whatnot, but it really did feel that it backfired in a big way, and the way it backfired is really reminiscent of the derby matches that we've already had this season already, where coming out of the cup final you'd have thought, learn the lessons coming into the league match, and that didn't really seem to happen. Again, we should be looking at how they're developing under the new manager coming into this to try and tweak and adapt, our tactics coming into this one, because one of the main things Brendan Rodgers has been getting lots of plaudits and lots of kudos for is being a bit more tactically flexible. We did see that in this match today, and we'll talk about that as well, about how we changed it up in the second half, but really coming into this game, Rangers really stifled us more than anything, and that was really down to a bit of naivety, a bit of ignorance, I believe, from Brendan Rodgers. Now, we did have some mitigating factors coming into this game. No Trusty, no McGregor. The bench had more academy players on it than I think we've ever seen at any point in this season. But like I said, this derby was about bragging rights, and really excuses go out the window, because we see ourselves as being so far ahead of Rangers that even without the captain, even without our first choice centre-back, even without much of a bench, we would have all backed the Hoops to go and get the result in the end, and sadly we didn't. In the video today we'll break all that down, what worked for Rangers, what didn't work for Celtic, and really, what we learned, what we take out of this game going forward, not really for the rest of the season. We'll have another derby to get some vengeance in, of course, but it's more to add into the complexion, the story of this season, so that we can see what we need to do in the summer and moving on into next year, so we can continue to progress. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something, maybe you cry a little bit, I don't know, whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section in this one, guys, and I want to see it, I want to hear it, I want to feel it. What was your big takeaways from the game? Sadly, I wasn't at the match, so a lot of my analysis is from the TV screen, of course, and I'm always excited to catch your thoughts and feelings from those of you that were at the game. Is there anything I'm missing, anything I've not seen? I'm always interested to get more feedback on how this game went from those of you that were at the game, of course. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because really for the opening period, the first half, everyone's kind of accepting like Rangers were the better team and all the rest of it, and yeah, they got the goals, they really started out the traps fast, and they really made it difficult for us. And with this change of shape that they brought into it, the thing with the change of shape that I'm a bit annoyed at Rodgers for like ignoring coming into this is that one of the things me and McBride were chatting about on the Thursday stream when we were previewing this game is that this system works very well for St Johnstone, for Motherwell, for Dundee, for Hibs, all these teams that have done kind of well against us over the last couple of years at Celtic Park, or if we're on the road somewhere, of having that 3-5-2, that however you want to think of it, but this is a very similar tactical system to what we see against, those types of teams that we mentioned in the league, that kind of box midfield protection to try and control the middle ground, a real wall of a defence in front of the goal, and then just having people ready, willing and able to burst and break into space if the ball or when the ball gets turned over. Now, from a Celtic point of view and from a Rodgers point of view, I can see how, like, we've played against this shape before. We've played against this shape with teams that are maybe more well versed in it than Rangers, who have only been playing it for like a week or two or whatever. And we've cracked the whip enough times against these types of formations where we can make openings, we can get shots, we can get goals. And although we won't always have, like, there's been games where against a system like this we don't rain down lots of goals and lots of chances. We've done enough over the piece against these type of teams that have been really good. against us. St Mirren are the one that always jumps out to my mind. And really, for all intents and purposes, why not? Why could we not just play the same way that we normally do against a St Mirren or something like that against Rangers? But the main difference is of course, this team has just got a huge confidence boost from beating, Fenerbahce over 2 legs. And really, man for man, player for player, Rangers do have the best squad outside of Celtic. So even if it is this kind of basic system, or I say basic, but it's not new, it's not, a real reinvention of the wheel here, we maybe have taken them a little bit too lightly on that one. Now, ultimately, I think McGregor would have made a bit of a difference in this match, because we would have got a better version of Arne Engels in this game. Perhaps we wouldn't have had the leaky bucket that was Luke McKeown in the first half. But ultimately, what he offers defensively, and the problems we've seen from Celtic against a shape and a team like this, I don't think it would have really saved us too much. It might have stopped us conceding one of the goals in the first half. It might have helped us score a goal in the first half. It might have helped us score an extra goal across the game overall. But I don't think McGregor's absence in this was a huge gaping miss. Tactically, it was more the personality, it was more the leader on the pitch, the organisation to be able to firefight and deal with things on the fly in match as things developed. And it was really evident from the first half, because without Callum McGregor, when we do have this different shape of Rangers, like in terms of how they're pressing, and the word pressing has been used quite a lot for Rangers in terms of how well they did in this match. For me, it's not really so much of a press or a counter press or a press within a press, as everyone like to say, like Chris Boyd and whatever, but it's more just the way they were set up. Even if you look at how the dots are spread out here, they just naturally cut off all the passing lanes. And really in the first half, that was the main problem we had, is we could not connect defence, the bottom of midfield, into the forward areas. The way we tried to start this match was with Arne Engels in the engine room trying to do the McGregor role of receiving the ball from defence, and with his range of passing, trying to find some openings to play the ball into. And really, the only joy that we had in the first half was a few occasions down the right-hand side with Engels. I think McKeown maybe got one or two of these passes away, maybe Alistair Johnson, but there was a few times we went really direct and we were trying to send a ball and bend it round their back three for Daizen Maeda to swoop into and try and get a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And some of them were our best chances of the match. And it was very, very direct. We were missing out the whole midfield. We were missing out Kuhn a lot of the time. We didn't go to Jota on the left hardly ever. And so often our main route to go in the first half was one of these sweeping balls down the line, down the channel, try and bend it in front of the back line for Daizen to get onto. And that for me was a real red flag. That was a real siren of warning already, that we are not getting the ball in the midfield and we're not able to really link up the play. Now, us being able to link the ball in midfield is something that we highlight on this channel quite a lot. It's something that's not necessarily a weakness of ours, but it's certainly something that we don't stress, we don't deliberately try and put into practice. And for these games that we have, throughout the season where we are comfortable, where we do win, where we do have a dominance on possession, we score lots of goals, we can use the bench, we can be very flexible, the inability or the lack of desire that I've felt from Celtic to try and develop the midfield to be a more controlling force in the game is something that I've been kind of harping on about and wanting. And it's for matches like this, because really where this problem falls down, I've never believed Engels is going to be a McGregor successor in this position. And again, I don't think I've seen anything in this game that changes my mind. Hopefully, from some of you guys that have thought Engels, because he's a big guy, he can be a defensive midfielder, hopefully that's kind of washed away from most of you guys out there, and you can now see what I'm seeing with this. Engels is a great midfielder, but he's still not, same as McGregor, he's still not got that sniff of a danger, where to be, where to just make the foul and just, do the right thing defensively to protect the back line here. He's often kind of caught out of position, very similar to McGregor. So again, I don't think this is anything unique or specific to Engels as much as it is the shape, the role, the responsibility of the midfield dynamic that we have. And yeah, he was not the answer. But in the first half, really where this broke down for me is we tried, like we've done, there was a little bit of a tweak here from Rodgers where you did feel that McKeown was quite close to Engels in the first half and Hatate was doing his best to be this press support for the front line in the first half. But really, Alistair Johnson, Luke McKeown, I would even add Schlupp into this. The three of these guys were a nightmare. They were absolutely terrible at getting the ball across the halfway line. So much of their stuff was trying to be done on the first touch or two touch and a pass kind of thing. It was far too quick. Rangers were always boxing players over, making it very tight, man v man, where all the passing then has to be on point. And as soon as you get the ball maybe from a defensive position here between like a Vickers, Johnson, McKeown, and you try and find it into like someone like Nicholas Kuhn, it then has to be absolutely flawless with the support that comes off that, the decisions that are made, and then anything around there. And really, Nicholas Kuhn in the first half got the ball a fair amount of times and didn't really do much with it. He was really happy to send Alistair Johnson on an overlap once or twice. I think he attempted one or two of these kind of cross balls, but not really much came from Kuhn. Feels like he's kind of went back into his shell a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And with us trying to force everything down the right hand side, with the penalty miss Yilmaz from the final, with a real point to prove in this game, you did feel that we were trying to focus down the right, and really they were happy to go man for man with us and try and fight with us on the left. But because Engels and McKeown, Johnson, Schlupp, this kind of networks of building out from the back wasn't really happening, it then meant that Reo Hatate was never really anchored up in the top end of the pitch. And really Hatate, for me, again, when I'm listening to other fans, I'm seeing posts on social media, some people are saying Daizen gets pass marks, Jota maybe gets pass marks, but everyone else was rotten. Reo Hatate was the best player in this game by a long distance. Daizen Maeda not too far behind, but Reo Hatate in the first half, even when Celtic were pretty mince and pretty weak, couldn't really get anything going, he was everywhere. Honestly, there was not a frame on this match, bearing in mind I watched it from home, where Hatate was not constantly popping up on screen, was not constantly getting involved with trying to be involved in the build-up in the deeper areas of the pitch to then try and link up and go and find the front line. And that meant the few occasions that we actually did get out of this kind of stifle kind of network that Rangers had of just blocking passing lanes or whatever, we were then just playing with our front three, which isn't really much of an issue, especially with the talent we've got in the front line here. But when they're competing against a back five with Connor Barron basically being our centre back, essentially a back six, we never really got a good break to then, if you've got, like for Celtic, right, if we've normally got this amount of players deep in build up, it normally then means we're playing a better team, and they normally have an extra body or two that will be committed to, trying to keep us in that half or whatever. But Rangers kind of sat in that mid block, and it meant then really if we did have more numbers in our own half, they were not overcommitted, and they still had plenty of defenders or plenty of players in defensive positions, so that if we did get out of the crowd, we were still going to be on to an uphill battle to get to the box and to actually make a chance happen. Big Mike Rocky was again a very quiet, unsung hero in this match, a very Liam Scales-esque performance where nobody got by Naroki. I think the block that he tried to make but didn't quite make for one of their goals is the only thing that he tried to do that didn't really come off for him. I thought again he showed himself to be a very capable centre back. Normally the thing that we've seen with Naroki in his few fleeting appearances for Celtic is he does have a good range of passing. We did not see that at all today, or yesterday, sorry, at point of recording, or in this match, whatever you want to think of it as. But again, 50-50s duels wise, I think he looked really strong, didn't really drown under expectation, didn't really get blinded by the lights or anything like that. And I thought he was a very good understudy, a very good stand-in in this game. But with Naroki not, he's right-footed, being on this left-hand side, he didn't want to be involved in any sort of build-up network play from the back as much. It meant Vickers got on the ball a lot more. And again, like we're constantly saying on this channel, Vickers is not a passer. Vickers is only a defender. This is a guy that is amazing at 1v1 defending, is an immovable object. And yeah, like you can pass it from here to here and here to here all day long. But if there's more pressure on and the midfield is deeper, Vickers does not have the ability, or is not given the command of the ball. It's quite clear that even if he is capable of sliding a pass into here, it's just not part of his job, and and subsequently just never does it. His passes are always super safe, and we're fine with that. He never makes mistakes with them. But if we're relying on him to be the ball carrying defender, we're not going to get very far, because he is just going to give it to someone else. And if there's not any space or any movement, we're then static on the ball, we're then receiving it in these areas here, and it's just much easier to be closed down and kind of penned into a situation where it's harder to get out this side of the box. And Raskin and Diamande, like, these guys put in a huge shift. And one thing I will say about Rangers at this point is you can clearly see on the touchline, Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, that whole little squad that they've got, they worked just as hard as the players the whole way through the match. Every time the camera panned to them, they were shouting at players. They were all as a group talking about where people were running, and you could see the whole way through the match that the Rangers touchline worked that game. And I didn't really get the same feeling necessarily from Brendan Rodgers' John Kennedy, Celtic, whatever. Which is then leaving a lot of onus and a lot of, a lot of the agency is then on the team to find the problems, to make the decisions in the game. And we did see some major changes at halftime, which we'll talk about. But really, this team here doesn't have the cohesion. This team doesn't really have, the muscle memory to go through a situation like this. With Naroki in at centre back, with Schlupp, who has only just arrived, in at left back, with no McGregor. We've then got Engels playing in this role, McKeown in from the start. Jota's only just back in the building, and Kuhn has been way off it. We've not got a fully. If this was the full 11, this game would have went a lot differently for me. I just think there'd have been more ability to read the game on the pitch and, to kind of problem solve a little bit better, to be a bit braver when opportunities did open up. But I did feel that with Engels in particular, the negative matches I've seen him have, he's not really done anything bad. He's just not really done anything, and this was kind of one of these games where you just never really felt his presence. You just never really felt whatever he was trying to offer into the match. And with McKeown really struggling to progress the ball from deeper, we then lose Hatate, like I mentioned, in the forward press, and then we lose the middle ground, we lose the pitch, and then it makes it really hard to get up and down. And I think the last thing I want to say about the first half is Rangers really could have got another 1 or 2 on that one. It was a game, it was a first half especially, where it really felt uncomfortable for large parts of it. And really, Schlupp losing Raskin for that header, if that was Greg Taylor, I can only imagine what the reaction would have been. And yeah, just to say it again, Hatate was clearly the best player on the pitch. Now, when we came into the second half, I was really crossing my fingers and toes that Brendan was going to make a half-time change, and he did. Right now, the change I would have loved him to make was going to be McKeown for Greg Taylor. We didn't have any other midfielders on the bench, and for me, the midfield was an area where we were losing it. Now, Schlupp did try and come into kind of inverted midfield a little bit to try and give us an extra man to deal with this kind of box situation, but it felt like that really played into their hands, and again, when you look at the second goal, for Tavernier swinging it in for Diamandi to flick it on for Raskin, again, he's just got a lot of area out here in the left hand side where he's got that time to pick his head up. The delivery this guy's got is well documented at this stage, and if he gets a free cross into the box with runners that are not tracked, and can't track every runner, it's just the way football goes, but when they're running onto defenders that are backpedaling, don't know where all the runners are moving to, it makes it really hard for them to defend against. And again, credit to Rangers, a very good goal to make it 2-0 on the 37th minute, and that was a bit against the run of play, so it felt like if we could get back into the game, we could quickly, get a couple of shots away, get a goal or two and make it count. And I wanted to see a really proactive approach at half time. Now, we didn't quite get the change I wanted, where I wanted a new face in midfield. I'd have even took Schlupp for Taylor. If we're going to have someone do this inverted fullback midfield role, Taylor is the best at the club at doing that. And part of the thing that Taylor opens up when he does this is he has a wild card. Taylor will end up in left wing up front, he'll end up in right wing or up front, and he will just cause those overloads that makes it impossible to mark and just gives extra openings for other players. Schlupp hasn't really been doing that. I don't think anyone's overly been crying out or asking for it, but when we're seeing him tucking in, being a bit more narrow, not dominating the wing, and we were really struggling to progress the ball from back to front, it felt that without McGregor and without Taylor, we were really missing something. But at half time, we got Kuhn off for Adam Maeda, and I don't think this surprised many Celtic fans. It surprised me a little bit, because although Kuhn was pretty mince in the first half, he's still Nicholas Kuhn. He's still got that bit of magic in his boots. He's still got that ability to make something out of nothing and to make it count in these big matches. And this is a type of match where you really do need to have those X factor players in place. Adam Maeda is definitely worthy of 45 minutes in this game of being a striker to try and get us back into the game with the performances we've had from him. Of course, ultimately I don't really think Maeda did much in this game. I don't think he really added much into it, but by playing Daizen out on the left here and having Jota on the right, which is a crazy thing to see, because in Jota's first stint at the club, he was so much more preferred to Daizen, that although Daizen was better on the left than on the right, the same could be said about Jota, and you would want Jota to be in the best situation, the best environment possible over Daizen Maeda in years gone by. But Jota is much more effective on the right, and you get ultimately a better combination out of the two of them if Daizen has to play wide by keeping him on the left, and that's ultimately where we get the fight back goal on the 49th minute to come from. Jota moves down the right, flicks in a nice wee cross, and Daizen pokes it away, and that makes it feel like we're back in the ascendancy. But the main change that actually happened at halftime is the midfield. The midfield construction completely changed, where McKeown was given the license to be the forward attacking midfielder a lot more, and Hatate was then tasked a lot more with being deeper. And there was a lot of times in the second half where we would actually see Hatate in this kind of zone here, the deepest of the three, trying to get the ball off of defence. But he was more often than not shoulder to shoulder with Engels and build up, and we got McKeown a lot higher up the pitch. But with Hatate, like I mentioned in the first half kind of breakdown, he was everywhere the whole game, and him just starting deeper, his care in possession, his range of passing, his decision making was a lot better than Luke McKeown's was in this position here, and we just generally looked and felt a little bit better. And then when Hatate did break through, he already had McKeown up here in an advanced position with someone to play with, and it just felt that that's where the extra pressure came from. There wasn't really too much of a change necessarily to what Engels was doing, but we gave McKeown, like, just you get into their half, and Rio, you're going to need to come back and do a lot more water carrying for us. You're going to do a lot more heavy lifting to get us up the pitch. And at this point, we started to dominate the game. We started to get back into it. And, you know, personally, like, I've just seen so many Derby games where, like, you're behind against Rangers and you just know if you're going to come back or not. I just had this feeling really all the way through the game that we weren't going to come back. And when Daizen got that fight back goal, I thought, shelf that negativity, Quinny. We're going to do it. We're a better team. Rodgers has made some tweaks and some changes, and it's going to get them unstuck, and we're going to get back into it. Balogun comes off for Proper. Daizen Maeda comes off for Hadji, who Hatate wrestles off the pitch, essentially, getting him to hurry up and come off. And then on the 70th minute, we see Jota coming off for Yang. And I think it was a great kind of response from Jota, really trying to G Yang up on his way in. And Yang, again, he's been called up for the Korea team. He's in the form of his life at this point, and he really did come in and add more. Again, exactly what we've seen from Yang all the way through his Celtic career is he is direct, he is brave, he goes forward, he takes people on, he doesn't blink, he doesn't hesitate in that sense, and he really kept them on the back foot, he really kept them moving back and really gave them a lot to worry about and a lot to think about. Fresh legs, high motivation, again a real point to prove, and again a player that's really in the ascendancy, and form is such a huge value factor I feel in these games. So Yang was a good introduction when it happened. And then it doesn't take long before the wheels fall off here, and we managed to create another opening. Luke McKeown sliding a lovely ball in for Hatate to go and finish it and get his goal that is just his just desserts from this match. A few of his long range efforts and a few of the chances he didn't quite get. I thought if Hatate doesn't score in this game, no one's going to give him the credit for how much he has worked his socks off in this game. He gets the goal, he makes it 2 each, and still no one is giving him his flowers in this one, which I think is absolutely criminal. What a huge goal, what a huge moment, what a huge match that Rio really did play to get us back in it at this point at 2-2. I thought we're in the ascendancy, we're going to make it happen. Daizen is chapping at the bit, he's flying down the wing. Yang has got that kind of bit between the teeth, as it were, and with Ida now fresh on to battle with some of the giants they've got in defence, I fancied us to keep pushing and to go on and get that winner, and you did feel that it was coming. But really the rest of the performances, like Schlupp, Alistair Johnson, even Vickers in periods here, didn't really lift up. Even though we get back into the game and we're really starting to dominate and gain control, it felt like the guys that were having bad games were still having bad games. They then go on to make a triple change, bringing on Insala for Dujon Sterling, Lawrence comes on for Connor Barron, and Igaman comes on for Cherny, who is public enemy number one in the green end of Glasgow now after his celebrations after the eventual third goal, which by the way is an assist for Jack Butland. Talk about direct football, talk about Route 1, where that big long ball just gets up, the bounce of the ball catches out Alistair Johnson and Vickers, and Igaman, like, what a finish. You've got to give him that. He really hit it pretty sweetly. And really the changes they made at this point in the game, we didn't really have the ability to make. You know, if you look at our bench, like I mentioned in the intro, it wasn't just that we were missing McGregor and Trusty or whatever, but really if you look at the bench with no Bernardo on top of that, with no Scales, and really again the January window looking like incomplete business. The rest of the bench, unused substitutes: Dane Murray, Anthony Ralston, Greg Taylor, Johnny Kenny, Francis Turley, Jude Bonner. It's a shame none of them got minutes in this game, it must be said, but when the game's at 2-2 and we are in the ascendancy and we are pushing the envelope and we are going forward and we're looking at maybe like McKeown could have done a bit better with his chance. There was enough chances in this game for us to actually go on and win it, but equally on the flip side of that, Rangers had more than enough chances to bury us in this game, really. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this game, I don't think Raskin played the best game I've ever seen him play, I'll give him that. And between some of these guys, like your Yilmazes and Diamandes, you really felt that they had the bit between the teeth, but really this was a This game was won and lost on the tactics on the system, where we just really let them cut off all of our passing lanes and we didn't have any option to do anything different to try and build up play, to control possession for an extended period of time, to carve up openings, to force them into difficult situations where they've got tough decisions to make on follow-on runners, go with the ball, all that kind of thing. Everything was played in front of them. Everything was far too easy, and that is ultimately the main disappointment I come away from this game, that Rodgers talked the talk, flexed his muscles all season long and in the press conference before this, and really looked like a punk coming out of this game, having Barry Ned Lasso out-tactical him in this one, essentially. And although I give him huge brownie points, Brucey bonus points, whatever, for the half-time changes we made, ultimately by that time the game was gone. 2-0 down. We did great to fight back at it, and yeah, we could have won it. I'm not ignoring that. Had we scored one more in the first half, had we not conceded one of those goals in the first half, it's a totally different kettle of fish. And the first half was won and lost on tactical decisions pre-match from the managers, Celtic and Rangers. And if we come on to look at the player ratings for this match, we see who the winners and losers are. Now, Rangers, like I say, a lot of these guys didn't really have that great a game. Dujon Sterling has a clearance off the line in this one as well, so again, preventing a real goal for them. Jack Butland gets an assist for the winning goal in this one. Raskin, like I mentioned, played the best game of his life, a 90 out of 100 rating. He gets a goal and an assist. He left with man of the match as well, and he'll be feeling pretty good about himself. Robin Proper also with a last man tackle. So some big defending from Rangers here. But like you can see with their offensive players like Cherny, Dessers, Igaman gets his goal from the bench, of course, but there's not much going on here. A lot of the ball, 72% possession for the Hoops, 14 shots for us, 4 big chances, they only had 2. And really, I heard the commentators say that they hadn't had a shot on goal since they went 2-0 up, and that was in like the 80th minute or something like that. So I really wouldn't be surprised if their next shot on goal after going 2-0 up wasn't the third to the match winner in the end. Passing accuracy was down. Jules win 51% isn't good enough in this type of game, and the fouls, like, we can talk about the refs another day, we don't really do that too often on this channel. And really, on the balance of probability, looking at the Celtic ratings or whatever, Nawrocki I think comes out of this with pass marks. He got a double-double in this one. He was fouled one time, he made a tackle, 7 effective clearances, 7 duels won, 4 interceptions, a lot of passing despite he never actually did much penetrating passing, only 4 missed passes in total. And overall, a BCM, a big chance miss for Nawrocki. He had a header he could have got on the end of as well, but a good performance from him, a quiet kind of one here. Schlupp comes out with a 50 out of 100, and I think like maybe some of the stats, like 3 interceptions help hide some of his failings in this match. He lost possession 11 times, and 9 of them were from missed passes. No tackles won, 6 effective clearances, no blocks, no blocked crosses either, which for a fullback is kind of their job. Alistair Johnson, one of the worst performances I've seen from him, a 25 out of 100 rating. He won a tackle, 2 effective clearances. He won more duels than I thought he would have, but he lost possession 27 times. 21 of them was missed passes. The worst game I think AJ has ever played in the Hoops, quite comfortably. Engels, again, just a bit of a non-entity. Just didn't really do anything in this game. 4 duels won, 4 duels lost, which is net 0. Who cares? No interceptions, 1 tackle, no blocks. Pass count is okay. It's not amazing. And in the attacking sense, considering he's on all the free kicks and corners and whatever, again, not much to really write home about here for Arnie Engels. A bit of a non-entity of an event. Luke McKeown gets out with a 65 out of 100 because he did get the assist for Hatate's goal. He was fouled 4 times, which is, pretty handy in midfield to break up the play, I guess. He got a clearance and a block in, no tackles, no 1 interception, 5 duels won, 9 lost, 19 possession loss for McKeown, 10 of them missed passes. It really did feel that McKeown was a hole in the bucket for us in the first half. Second half he came into a bit more of a game, being just focused on the front half of the pitch. Big chance created for his assist, obviously. But for me, head and shoulders above everyone in this game, and I've not looked at the stats yet, is Reo Hatate. 2 shots on target. I would have loved this to have been 2 goals with the first chance he had. Big chance created, an attempted assist, which is all good. Duels, he wasn't actually entered into much, but he won more than he lost. He did have 9 missed passes from his 10 possession loss, but never actually lost out, as it were, shoulder to shoulder, that sort of thing. Pass count is actually quite small. No blocks, no clearances, no tackles. Not much actually getting trapped statistically here for Reo Hatate, but he was everywhere. He was a one-man midfield. He did the job of 3 men in this game for me. He was everywhere, and he gets his goal deservedly. I would have loved to have seen him eventually become the match winner. Daizen Maeda is everyone's definitely gets a pass mark in this game. He gets his goal. He could have got another 1 or 2. He won 10 duels. He only lost 4. He only missed 2 missed passes, and he only lost possession 6 times. Daizen was in peak form, was in great fettle, and with 3 tackles won, was one of the most active defensive players in the team. Are you surprised? I know I'm not. He gave away 4 fouls, was fouled twice. I think if that match was re-refereed, it would probably the other way around. And a great shift from Daizen. He's just going to take confidence from this and keep running on. Jota gets a 60 because he got an assist for Daizen Maeda's goal, of course. A few balls into the box and all the rest of it. Nothing else here is that impressive, to be honest with you. He was okay. He looked good on the eye, Jota, especially in the second half, but on the right wing. It just felt he was much more of a handful for Yilmaz than he was for Tavernier and Dujon on the left. It felt like they kind of had his number, and he was restricted to staying on the line rather than cutting in as much as you would have liked to have seen him do. Yang and Ida from the bench, there's not really much there to talk about, I think, from either one of them, but Yang gets a couple of points, so we'll have a wee look at where he managed to get them. Yeah, a couple of duels won and that kind of thing, nothing major. And like I said at the intro, this game wasn't really about points. This game was about bragging rights. This game was about desire. This game was about putting the flag down and showing them how big the gap is, despite the little win that they've got in the Europa League to give them a wee bit of confidence under Barry Boy. You know, this was a game to really... This was a game not about point. I can't say that enough. And that's the most disappointing part of it, is the Celtic fans, we wanted to rub their noses in it. We really wanted to... Don't get too ahead of yourselves, lads. There's still tons of catching up for you to do over the next decade or so. And really, this match has gave them all the confidence in the world to run their mouth off and say all the stuff that they want to now. Really, until even if we go and we beat them at Ibrox, they're still going to hang on to scoring 9 goals in 3 games. The cup final being so tight. Back-to-back league wins now as well. And I said this either on this channel or maybe on Axom or one of the other channels, but really, Rangers, see, as soon as they realise that the only reason they won the league under Steven Gerrard is they got good at making sure they beat everyone else in the league. If you look at that season, they didn't do that great head-to-head in the derby matches. They made sure they beat everyone else. And looking at the way the league sits to now, had they beaten everyone else, which they maybe have the ability to do now, they maybe have the confidence to do now, this would have been a much tighter league. This would have been a much more tightly fought title race, as it were. Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic board, have got a lot of work to do. This isn't a rebuild. I've seen someone tweeting that out. I can't remember whose tweet it was, whatever, but someone said we need a rebuild after this, and I'm just like, what are you smoking? I could do with some of that. It's my birthday. But genuinely, this squad needs 2 players of distinct quality. We need to go and spend 9, 10, 12 million pounds on 2 more players to come into the team and completely lift it the level. This should have been Champions League versus Europa League, and it really did feel just like a Europa League match ultimately. A lot of the content on the channel over the next week or 2 is going to be about, the transfer window, how this season's went, what we're thinking about progressing into next season. I'm going to be scouting the J-League, I'm going to be scouting across European football, and I'm going to do my best to try and predict the sort of players Celtic might go after, as well as recommend players that I really am hot on, that I think these guys are Celtic players in the making, and we should maybe be pushing the boat out and trying to get them. Because really, like I said, this game wasn't about points. How much do we care that we lost this one? It hurts, it's sore. It's my birthday, it's St Patrick's Day. This is normally a great time for Celtic fans, and all those Rangers fans now are just so happy. That's the saddest part about it all. They're just happy. They think they're on the way back. And yeah, it's a gutter. It doesn't really mean anything, but we're still going to win the league. We're still going to win a treble, and this will be quickly forgotten about if we beat them at Ibrox and then we recruit properly again in the summer. I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown video, guys. I'm excited to catch your comments down below, of course. On screen and now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Hail, hail, and moan the hoops.